Today we are going to learn how to produce axonometric drawings. We're going to learn this step by step, but before we begin, just a quick introduction on what axonometric is. There is a comparison between isometric and axonometric drawings. What we are going to focus on today is axonometric drawings, and there are basically two types. The first one has a 45 by 45 degree. As you can see on this slide, there is a 45 degree angle on one side and a 45 degree on the other, and that's what we call in short an axonometric 45-45. The other axonometric is the 60-30 or 30-60, where you can see there's a 60 degree angle on one side and a 30 degree angle on the other side. The difference here is the unequal degrees to the reference line. That's a horizontal line where the arrows meet. In this video I'm going to demonstrate both of these very simple axonometrics. It's not as complicated as it seems. The actual idea of axonometric is to produce a 3D view of an object that you will create from a floor plan that you have. We're not going to do an isometric because our floor plan doesn't have an angle more than 90 degrees inside. But what we do have here with the axonometrics is a 90 degree reference at the corner on top. So that's why we're going to explore these forms of axonometrics today. Obliques are another form of producing 3D, but we can't really use them because they don't show enough of the interior or expose it, and the angle's quite distorted. But with axonometric you can see a lot more of the interior with that angle above. This is the first step out of 7 steps that I'm going to demonstrate in this video. Step 1 is setting up and choosing your 45-45 or 30 by 60 or 60 by 30 drawing, and choosing something that will show the interior of your building in 3D. So to get started, you will look at different angles of your floor plan and see what's going to best show the interior spaces, furniture, or certain parts of the drawing that you think may be important to show in this axonometric angle. I intentionally want the plan to be placed in such a way, but if I wanted to project more of the, say, connection to the garden space in the middle, or I might want to tilt it this other way, and then I'll be able to project more of these relationships between the openings and the central garden space. But with the close proximity of the walls, your walls may very well overlap, and this can block the views of the shorter spaces below. So what you want to project in your floor plan will dictate how you will arrange your drawing. So this is an example on how to set up your drawing, but you'll have it taped down, but before we tape it down, we have to make sure that the corner meets the line, a straight line below. So you're grabbing your T-square, you just place it on the drawing board, lock it into the side to make sure that it's giving you a straight line. Once you have a reference line, then you'll line up the corner of your floor plan and you'll check with the ruler. This is a 30 by 60 ruler, and you just lock it with the T-square to check the walls are at the correct angle on both sides. So this ruler has the longer side and the shorter side. In contrast, you've got the 40 by 45 ruler. This has got the right angle, and it's also handy. Usually they come in all different sizes. This one is a bit smaller, which isn't very practical. If you can get your hands on a larger one, it'd be a lot more helpful when you're drawing the longer walls. So you just slide it across the T-square and you allow the external wall to be in line with that angle. And that's how you'll check these angles to make sure that they're accurate. There are many ways to achieve this angle. You can also use a protractor. To create a 45 by 45 axonometric drawing, you'll align your T-square up on your drawing board and place the corner of the floor plan to line up with the reference line, and then use your 45 by 45 ruler to slide across the T-square and just make slight adjustments until you can have that external wall aligned with the ruler. And you'll check the other side. And you just keep making slight adjustments until you get the correct angles. It's very important that these external walls line up with your ruler. Then you'll secure your plan in place. Then grab your tracing paper and you'll set it up over the top. If you're using a roller tracing paper or a sheet of A3, A2 tracing paper, it is important to have the sheet align with the edge of your drawing board to make sure that what you're drawing is going to be straight and laid out nicely. In most cases, you'll be scanning through your drawing and sharing it digitally, or reprinting it and layering it out on a sheet with other drawings. So it may not apply, as it wouldn't be as important to be doing it, but it's always a good thing to keep in mind. Now thirdly, we're extending the vertical lines, and we're also going to be scaling and measuring the correct height of the walls. So to extend the vertical lines on the drawing board you've placed, you could either do this concurrently with scaling and measuring the correct height of the walls, or you can extend the vertical lines and then you scale and measure the correct height of the walls. To start, you need to have a very sharp pencil. Unless you're totally confident, you can start with pen right away. But if this is your first time doing this, I suggest you do it in pencil. So we're going to project this floor plan into 3D, and to do that, we are going to add height to the walls. These walls have certain heights, and you'll need to be referencing the elevations or sections to this floor plan. So let's just say that this wall is 4 meters in height. You'll then have to scale it to what the floor plan is scaled at. So the floor plan is 1 to 100 and my walls are 4 meters high. This will give me roughly 4 centimeters or 40 millimeters in height. Making sure that your T-square is lined up with external corners of the floor plan, and then drawing it in a nice straight line up 4 centimeters. Just keep repeating that at every external corner. Finally, after projecting all of the vertical lines, you will need to join the vertical lines at either 30, 45 or 60 degree, depending on the choice of axonometric. When you start to join these vertical lines, it creates another plane in the drawing. You can do this quite simply by lining up a ruler and simply joining the lines this way. Or if you want to be precise, then I suggest you go with the T-square. So you'll lean your 60 angled ruler onto the T-square, and then make sure that this angle will meet the other vertical line at the top of the wall below. This gives us a precise angle if it's the 30 or 60 degree or 45, whatever we need for the drawing. We need to reference from this angle that we've drawn if it's locked in with the T-square. Sometimes your vertical lines won't match up with the angle that you've drawn, so you'll just need to fix and make sure that it meets up properly. This is just a great way to cross-check the scales of your vertical lines and make sure that everything is precise. Now we're going to move over and join this wall This side is our 30-degree angle, so I'll need to get my ruler and line it up with the right edge to get that 30-degree angle. And then I'll join these vertical lines to create another wall. So now that I've created these two planes that are facing me, I will proceed to draw the inner side of the wall. This gives a true three-dimensional drawing, giving the walls thicknesses. So I will proceed by just repeating the same process, except I'm taking reference from the inner corner of the wall and then going up at that 4 meter height to scale and just making a mark. We repeat that on each corner to give that wall thickness, and then we will do this with our ruler again, find the right angle. In this instance it's the 60-degree reference. We slide it up and down our T-square, lock it into place, align it with the other line, and then we get a nice true 60-degree angle. And we repeat this in the other direction with our 30-degree angle. You just slide it up and ensure that those 2 points meet. You continue the same process with the back walls and line up, creating those back walls planes. Once you've done this, you'll find that you've created a box. You'll then draw your floor plane, and this is referencing the inner line of the wall on plan. Then you'll continue with the internal walls, creating more vertical lines, and just continue the same process. This is why I suggest doing it in pencil, because you will find that there will be a lot of these wall planes overlapping, and as you start to build up with the different pen weights, you'll have the freedom to be able to edit and clean up some of those lines that aren't necessarily important once you start to see the overall three-dimensional drawing take shape. So here I've finished doing all of the vertical lines projecting these wall planes, and you'll see that there's a lot of overlapping with the walls. Our second last step is to project doors and windows and furniture within the walls that we have drawn. Here I'm drawing the vertical lines and projecting the window openings in the external wall plane. With referencing your elevation or section, you will look at the scaled height, and let's just say that our window openings are 1 meter above the floor line. I'll put markers down and then I'll join them. Repeating the same process for the inside of the window as well. For doors, you will scale and reference from your elevation or section the height of the door, and you'll create the opening at that angle. A lot of the case studies will have curtain walls, and it is exactly the same principle, just finding those vertical lines first, creating markers, and then doing the correct angle, joining those two markers together. Our final step is outlining, and this is the same methodology as using line weights to create order and structure in our drawing. I'm using the 0.4 pen to go over most of our pencil lines and all of the vertical lines, and this starts to really simplify the drawing and the intent that I'm trying to do in this axonometric drawing. The thickest line weight will be showing all of the wall planes where they've been cut through in the floor plan, and that will be done in a 0.6 pen. This is a very basic axonometric, and you can keep detailing these kind of drawings up, showing the relationship between planes, exploding it in diagram, and also showing structures of materials and textures if you would like. So I suggest just at the beginning to keep it simple and follow a simple floor plan, and then over time you can start to really develop it up. I hope this 7-step guide helps you along the way. Thanks.